Well, big welcome to Adriana. So we have a new student joining us this week, and you might also see Sheila is a new face. Um,
Hey.
so it's great to see the boot camp growing, and of course we always have a few people from all over the world that get to join us on the replays. So it's so inspiring to me to have this community, and thank you guys. The posts have been awesome. So before we jump into today's lesson, where we're going to overview what to expect and what we'll be drawing for this next week, we're going to talk about portraiture, and we're going to draw a face together tonight. Yeah, I know, right? It's the easy version of drawing a face. I've got tons of resources for you too, and plenty of homework, Judith. You're going to love it. I would love to hear any just immediate feedback of how things went with last week battling perfectionism. I know some of you, like Diane, she was saying perfectionism is not a problem. She's always ready to go for it and has fun making mistakes. Anybody else that felt like this was a big problem for them or had anything else pop up? Like,
I'm the farthest thing from perfectionism. On the other end.
And I was away, so I didn't feel like I had to do anything but quick homework, and that got rid of the perfectionism.
So fabulous 4th of July weekend over there. I come from the perfectionism camp, and usually what happens to me is I just get so frustrated I walk away from my practice. But that's why this group is so valuable for me. It's like, okay, well, I've got to report back, so got to do it. Got to do the homework.
Yes. So, was the homework just the line drawings of the parochia?
Yes.
No.
And
No, there's more.
What?
there was the line drawings. Or go ahead.
Well, the little squares.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
The parochia.
What happened to me is that your sketch pad was part of the drawing, and then I got really confused about where everything was, but I didn't get perfectionistic.
There you go. That's a win. There was also a contour line.
That was the worst.
Perfect. Completely freeing yourself from perfectionist tendencies.
Well, can I show my contour thing? It was a water bottle, right?
Yeah.
And it had a funny bottom. So this is my contour thing.
Ooh, nice.
Well, it's not exactly nice. I couldn't quite get it.
Hey, that's great though. And the thing about contour drawing is it's not about the final product. It's really just about what's happening in your brain as you watch and follow the line, the outlines as you draw. So don't even worry about how it turned out in the end. It's one of those things that really has a cumulative value. The more you do it, the better you'll get. So it's a perfection butt kicker in the end.
When we spoke, you said draw anything. And I didn't have the outline. I'm sorry, I'm at the cottage. I don't have a printer. I don't have much to work with. But and I just drew what was around me, like
Perfect.
that kind of thing. And I don't know, the water.
Yeah, and any day, like what we are aiming for is to draw every day. So if it's a still life from your house, if it's just whatever you're personally interested in drawing, that is always awesome. So I like how Diane also included, she kind of did a different version instead of doing the San Miguel line drawing. I think, was that Lake Atitlan, Diane, that you were drawing? Gorgeous.
Let's see this.
Hold it up, Diane.
Oh, no, mine? Oh, mine.
Hold it up for those who didn't see your post.
Oh, all right.
Please.
Yeah, okay.
Pop you up here.
It's huge. It's giant. Can you see it?
Ooh,
Really
that's
nice.
great.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Wow. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
What medium are you using for that one, Diane?
Ink and pencil, like you say.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that is the
Wow.
still
What was
life
that?
drawing with shape.
The succulent.
Yeah, there's a succulent still life.
Except it was a rose.
What medium did you say you were using to draw that?
Pencils and my lame pen with water-soluble ink.
What is a lame pen?
Oh, it's
Oh,
just
Marguerite, she bought me one when we were in Mexico this year. It's so much fun. You have to get one.
What is it?
It's a German brand. It's called Lamy, Lamy.
I use. Yeah.
Hold it up, Diane.
An excellent pen. That's what I have.
It's a pen that has water in it also. And so you draw and then
there's your lemon.
Yeah.
and then you can use water on it, and it just it's so much
have
fun. Try it.
Oh, Renata too.
Yeah.
Wow, we're on the Lamy.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love
I
it.
have to get
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
My art supply store opened yesterday. Yay!
Oh,
Yes, I'm going tomorrow. I can't wait.
Carol, do you have one?
Well, is it just water in it?
That's the
No,
water
it's
brush.
ink.
That's
Yeah.
the water brush, but the Lame pen has water-soluble water.
Water soluble
Like
ink.
Micon is not water-soluble. The Lame pen is, and it's very
Oh, water soluble ink. Okay,
We
thank
used to
you.
call them fountain pens. They're called fountain pens.
Oh,
Oh, is that what they are?
Yes. It's an ink pen, and it has a cartridge that you put in with the ink inside. But
Oh,
they're great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I use them instead of
and
ballpoint.
that's the Lamy pen?
Yes. Lami.
Why?
Why? Oh, is it why? Oh,
So
okay.
you need the Lame pen and you need the water brush together. They work together.
Oh,
They work
okay.
really nicely together. If you have a normal paintbrush and a jar of water, that'll do it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, these
Those are super
That
handy.
is. Ah,
And actually, if you're very brave, then this week, whenever you are working through a little bit of portraiture, you can use your Lamy pen. And anytime you make a mistake, you just go in with the water brush and fix it right up.
Oh,
But it is
okay.
actually very nice with
Oh,
with
okay.
portraiture.
Sounds
that's
good.
on my list. Okay.
So let's go ahead and dive into this week's assignments. I'm going to share my screen and just show you generally where you can find everything. And if anybody has any tech questions or if you'd like me to guide you through, I'm going to hang out after our drawing lesson so that you can have my full attention on how to operate everything. So here we are in the Bad Arts Bootcamp lesson online course. And we've already gone through the bootcamp basics and battling perfectionism. And if you're new, you can start right here whenever you get into the inside of the course. This week, we've gone through procrastination and shape. We're gonna kick it off with self-doubt and distraction as the bad guys that we are battling. And the elements we're focusing on this week are value and form. Now, I know a lot of you are already ahead of the game as far as going through these lessons. So in that case, I'm going to be posting a couple of other resources for specifically portraiture, because that's going to be our focus this week. Next week, we'll talk more about the figure. But one resource that I would love for you to check out and please subscribe to is my YouTube channel. So I have a whole series of drawing tutorials really specifically about portraiture and breaking down in depth how to draw the nose, how to draw the mouth, how to draw the profile, each of the features in profile. So you could keep yourself busy this whole week going through these videos if you haven't already, if you've already done the homework from the Bad Artist Bootcamp. So
Where can we find that?
I'm gonna link it in the group, but if you go to YouTube and you search Jessica Antonelli, or if you go to youtube.com/Jessica Antonelli, that might be just as easy. But I'll have it linked in the course as well. And I'll also be linking this Pinterest board, which is really full of way more than you ever need to know about.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, it can get a little much. And this is even like a shortened version of all of the things that are possible. But if you have questions, if you just kind of like to see different takes of angles, ways of drawing the face, this is a kind of a fun resource as well. So I'll be linking both of those in our course. And whenever you're in the course and you're looking for the posts, on the sidebar, you're going to look for the activity feed. And that's where I post stuff. And you can see the first thing we have posted is this week's drawing guide. So this is additional to the month-long guide. You can either use the month one, or this has some of the extra homework specifically for this challenge for July. So if you want to download this or check it out later, it starts us off with what we're doing today and spells out each of the lessons to follow along with throughout the week. So you can print that out if you want. The PDFs down here. So that's a whole lot really fast, but those are the main resources for this week. And I'm going to super briefly do a little bit of an overview of the most common mistakes that people make whenever they draw portraits. And then we're actually going to draw a portrait step by step together, really connecting with that anti-perfectionism that we learned last week. It's not going to be the prettiest face in the world. Some of you have been doing portraiture will probably know a lot of this stuff, but any extra tidbits that you'd like to share with us would be great. So let me go ahead and pop up. Portraiture. Okay. So whenever you are drawing the portrait, one of the things that I want you to keep in mind in the very beginning as we're drawing, and also as you continue to draw throughout the week, is not to commit the number one most common mistake, chopping off the back of the head. So you can see there are kind of two faces in each of these that look very similar, but one looks weird and one looks much better. The key difference here is that the artist didn't give enough room for the back of the head in the first drawing. And this is simply because the way that our eyes and minds process whenever we look at a face, we look for the place where we get the most visual communication. So that's the facial expressions. We kind of think of a face as just this little circle around our eyebrows down to our chin. But really, when you're drawing a portrait, as an artist, you've got to focus on the full picture, which includes the skull itself. So we'll be talking about proportions that will help you remember that. Incorrect proportions. If you have a lot of problems with portraiture, you might be drawing something that looks like this. This is the classic kindergarten face of just drawing what you might think a drawing is supposed to look like, but you can see how inaccurate it is overlaid here on Nicole Kidman. So for one, the eyes are way too high up on the head. That's because they didn't allot enough room on the big oval of the head for the forehead and the skull itself. So we'll be talking about how the eyes are actually halfway down the skull whenever you are drawing a portrait when we start drawing together. Other things that just went totally wrong here are like those super dark lines that go right down the side of the nose. We talked about line last week, but this week we're all about value and shading. So we're gonna think about how to have different variations of just light shades as opposed to carving out a dark line when there doesn't really need to be one. And there's all kinds of other things wrong with this. I can also post a link to this presentation in the group also, if that would be helpful. Here's another example of that, the wrong face and then the right proportions. So we're gonna talk even more about that. There are a lot of faces done wrong, and we'll dive a little bit more into how some of those can be avoided. But actually, I want to go ahead and get drawing tonight because I think that we've got, yeah, we want to spend more time actually on the page. So let's go ahead and grab our sketchbooks and pens and pencils. I'm going to be working with a pencil tonight. We're going to be doing a lot of guidelines, and you're going to want to make sure you have some lines that are dark that we're going to commit to, and other lines that are lighter that are going to be our guidelines. So once we're all ready, oh, let me go ahead and pop my screen up here.
Okay.
Great. Everybody see me all right?
Yep.
All right. I'm so excited. This is my favorite lesson to teach. So glad we
Because
can.
you love portraiture.
I do. Judith's like, draw me a building.
Ooh, draw me a lobster.
A
Oh,
lobster?
and the thing to remember is you'll always end up with the same overall guidelines for anything we draw, just like we talked about last week, going from the big shapes and diving into the smaller details. And we're going to do the same thing right now. So we're going to start with the overall big shape of the head. Now, if I'm drawing a portrait, I want to look like someone, then I actually draw the shape of their face. We all have subtly different faces, square-shaped faces, oval-shaped faces. For the sake of today, I'm going to draw a really generalized, just kind of upside-down egg shape. And I'm going to keep this light because I will most likely be erasing or mostly shifting this shape a little bit later on. As you can tell, I am not precious with this at all. It's not about even like having one perfect oval. I just kind of swirled it on there.
Is there a face that we should be looking at?
Nope, we're just making it up. You can just draw exactly along with me and that'll be good. If you happen to want to look at somebody, that would be. Hello, Maurice. Welcome. Glad you could join us. We just started drawing, so you came at just the right time.
Thank you.
Hola.
Hola, hola. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
It's raining here in San Miguel.
Oh, that's good. Get those jacarandas blooming.
Yes.
So, Maurice, we're drawing the portrait, and we just drew sort of an oval shape. You're just drawing right along with me. We're drawing sort of an imaginary person just to get the proportions of the face down.
Okay. Oval shape.
And after you draw your oval, what I want you to do is find the line of symmetry. Just draw a line, a vertical line straight down the middle of your oval.
Okay. Did?
And most people's faces are not perfectly symmetrical. We're all a little bit off. And that is another thing to remember. Don't ever get too stuck on thinking like, oh, this eye isn't exactly like the other eye, for example. They don't need to be. It just needs to be kind of general. Next, go ahead and find horizontally the halfway point of your oval. So kind of just making a bullseye here, but I want to make sure that the top and the bottom of my oval are about equal. So I'll just use like my fingers to measure that. Looks pretty good. Then from the middle of your oval to the bottom, this half is going to be cut in half again. Mine's a little high, scooching it down a little lower. But what's cool about this exercise too is every time I do it, the person that I'm imagine drawing here always looks a little bit different. And it's just, it's somebody out there probably looks like this, but you know, we don't have to make a likeness right now. Next, that bottom quadrant that we just cut in half, you're going to cut in half again. So I'm going to find my halfway point.
The bottom?
And do another horizontal line. So that now I've got 3 horizontal lines across my face. And if you'd like, you can label these. At the top is the eye line, believe it or not. So that horizontal line cutting across the skull, that's where the eyes are going to go. Next is the nose, and of course then the mouth. And I should stipulate this is only when the face is really looking directly at you. Although these apply when the head is angled around at different in different directions, you kind of have to adjust according to where the head is, but this will do you right if the head is looking directly at you. face on. All right, so here's where things start getting interesting. Whenever we place the eyes on the face, there's kind of a cool little proportion that you can check on yourself in the mirror or, you know, looking at me in the video. And it's pretty much almost correct for almost all people. So that's the thing about proportions. They're not exactly the same for everyone, or else we'd all be clones and look exactly the same. But this is how we know where to place the eyes. The distance between your two eyes is the same as the length between the length of the eye. So if my eye is yay big, that same distance applies for the distance between my two eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you're placing that on the page, I like to start with the point of symmetry, so that line right down the middle, and I want to make sure that I have the same distance between that midpoint so that the eyes aren't too far to the left or to the right. So just like last week, you want to really make sure you stop and check your work often. Don't just trust like eyeballing it all of, you know. So I've got my first little distance between the eyes measured. I'm going to use that distance from, this is essentially like one tear duct and the next tear duct. I'm going to take that measurement, and that is going to be the length of the eye. There are some people who say that you could use the same length, and that's about how far apart the outside of the face should be. I don't find that to be very accurate when I'm drawing like real people, but if you're not sure if your eyes that you're drawing are way too big or way too small, you should have about an eye's length from the outside of the eye to the outside of the face. Maybe a little bit less probably looks more realistic more often than not, depending on the person. So this length matches this length, matches this length. And as a placeholder for now, I'm going to draw a really simple eye shape, but we're going to come back and do the eyes in detail in a little bit. So I'm going to go for kind of a little almond shape. Skinnier toward the middle. And not super big and wide. A lot of people draw very circular eyes for eye openings, but the opening of the eye itself is actually quite slender. But before we do anything else at all on the eyes, let's get our noses placed. So the nose has also got a funny little trick about where to place it conveniently. My proportions are a little different than the ideal, but if you take a perfectly vertical line, and so I always use my pencil, that pencil trick, and you align from the inner tear duct straight vertically down, that is where the outside of your nostril should go. So on my drawing, I'm just, for the sake of keeping notes, I'm going to draw a vertical line straight down from the tear ducts until it connects with that nose line. That is where our nose is going to be placed. So if I'm drawing a real portrait, so say I was doing a self-portrait, I want to keep this proportion in mind, because even if the person I'm drawing doesn't actually fit that proportion perfectly, so for example, me, instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, all right, well, this person doesn't fit the proportion, like, I have to draw this nose like the first person who's ever drawn a nose in the world, you know, it's really a quick check. You can say, well, is this person's nose thinner? Does it come in even more than the typical proportion, or is it wider? Does the nose pop out farther than the traditional proportion? So use this as a guide that's going to help you quickly make these decisions to get your portrait drawn more quickly than just following the rules. And noses, I like to make as simple as possible in the beginning. So let's go ahead and draw our nose now, actually. What I'm going to do is sitting on top of the nose line and inside of the guidelines on the side. I'm going to draw two little kind of open parentheses. They're kind of tilting back away from each other. Forgive me because I'm drawing sideways here. It's a little funny. Trying to get them as symmetrical as possible. And these are the outside sort of flaps of the nostrils. So you're only drawing a line for this part of the nose, this outer kind of shell where there tends to be the most shadow in the nostril, in the nose. We're gonna let everything else stay blank, leave it white. And if you were gonna make a really detailed drawing, you could come back and shade those other bits of the nose, but for now, we're not gonna worry about it. For the nostrils, I wanna put just two really simple little dashes or lines. And the important thing is that they do not touch the little parentheses we already drew. So you don't want them to touch the outer shell of the nostril. That's because if you look closely, our noses, that skin wraps and kind of folds around the nostril without touching it. There would be, of course, exceptions to this whenever you're drawing people from specific angles, but in general, it looks pretty good if you don't do that.
It's like it's angled. Your dash is angled a little bit.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. And I'll often think of them almost more than as like a little paisley.
Okay.
So kind of like an apostrophe or two little guys. And it's interesting, I've seen noses that sometimes the like little nostril hole looks like it's closer in. Other noses is the exact opposite. They look like they're kind of going apart. Just depends on the person's nose. And sometimes a person has a nose where you see much more nostril or much less, but what you really don't want to do under any circumstance is just draw a circle for the nose. That's not going to look attractive unless you're specifically trying to make an unflattering portrait. Okay, so let's put a placeholder in for the mouth next. So what we're going to do is we're going to find another trick. We're going to use the eye to help us find the proportion of where to put the outside of the mouth. So for this one, you're going to find the midpoint of the eye and draw your little dashes directly, vertically down, all the way to the mouth line. This is a line that has a lot of variation to it as far as on people's faces. Some people have more or less wide mouths. And I'm trying to find the midpoint of my eye. Just about matches. One thing you'll notice though, is when a mouth is closed and relaxed, you'll see the outside like line of my mouth actually kind of looks like it ends a little farther out than the shape of the actual flesh of my lips. So let me stop talking so you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hard to tell, but the line of the lips being closed goes out a little farther than the shape of the lips. So I'm going to draw that. You're going to look at, you can use my face as an example. Let's go ahead and draw a really simplified version of the lips for now. And the depending on the person, I've noticed that the lips can either be sitting on top of the mouth line, or sometimes that mouth line is right where the opening line of the lips is, but it tends to be a little bit higher up. And what I like to focus on is that negative space of this little kind of cleft, that little bump we have right in between our nose and our upper lip. So I kind of do a little divot just underneath the nose, like a little smiley face. And depending on the person I'm looking at, you know, that would kind of decide where I'm going to put that little shape, if they have a long upper lip or a shorter upper lip. And then I'm going to draw the line between, that cuts between the two lips, the opening of the mouth. Now, if you make a perfectly straight line, that person's going to look very strict and unhappy. So instead, we want a nice curving line. And I always start from the line of symmetry, and I try and go outward from each side to keep it more or less symmetrical, unless you're going for a specific expression. So we're going to have a little dip here in the middle of the mouth. It's like a little bump down. And then I kind of think of like a little seagull's wings, or you can think of the bow of an arrow. You're gonna curve up slightly and then go downward and then back up again. So you can get something kind of like this shape. That looks very shapely. It's a shapely mouth. So as you can see, this middle of the lip line does reach all the way out to the two outside guidelines, directly down below the eye. And it really hovers kind of in between these two lines, but the bottom of the lip is going to be right there at the mouth line that we drew.
Ooh.
Okay, so you might want to watch this particular approach that I want us to do for the mouth first before you dive in. What I don't want you to do is to really outline your lips like this, like the little kind of traditional cartoon lips. We're focused on shading today, or this week, I should say, value. And whenever we're looking more at value and less about line, you'll start to notice that a lot of the times we want to draw hard lines in where really they don't exist. It's really just a more subtle shift in value. So the lips themselves, I'm wearing lipstick, so I have more contrast or difference in color than you might normally see on my face. But the shapes of our lips don't usually stand out super intensely like this unless you're wearing that intense lipstick. So what you can do to have a very realistic lip look is to come in and just start to shade the upper lip and let that upper lip kind of start to appear as you shade it instead of getting outliney.
Diane?
Yeah?
Drawing class.
So I've gone ahead and just shaded maybe 1 or 2 steps higher on the value scale, which hopefully you all remember from our value class, the upper lip. For the bottom lip, oh, and the reason that we do this, guys, is just because the shape of the lips themselves, or I should say the three-dimensional form, the way that our lips stick out, the lower lip tends to catch the light. You're going to see a highlight there, whereas the upper lip kind of angles downward and it tends to fall in shadow. So the upper lip in general, when you're drawing it, will appear darker than the lower lip. And we're going through a lot quickly here. Welcome back, Marjorie. I'm glad you found us again. Looked like Marjorie dropped off. Okay, for the lower lip, this is a cool trick.
Mine looks like mine looks weird. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's getting a lip shape.
Yeah? Do you want to pop your video?
Like a mustache, you know? I don't know. I don't quite like it. You see?
Ah, yes. Okay, so what you can do is erase the outside of the lip a little bit so that the shape doesn't go, like instead of going all the way out here, kind of erase. Let me make sure you can see me here. Erase on the outside so that you'll notice if you look really closely, the shadow of the lip itself stops a couple like millimeters before the outside.
That's the line you were talking about earlier, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That is important.
Thanks.
Now for the bottom lip, if the person is wearing, you know, lip color, then you might also shade the bottom lip and make it a little bit lighter. But another trick that I'd like to show you is that you can actually let the bottom lip appear without doing any outline at all. And this is all about that value, the element of value we're going to be talking about. So I have drawn a little bit of a line just at the bottom, sort of under the pucker of my lower lip. What I want you to try is just shading a little bit underneath there really lightly. And you can smudge. I either use a finger, or if you have like a blending stick, you could try that. But blend slightly upward toward the outside edge of the lips, and it'll create a subtle shadow that really starts to make the lip appear to pop out and look very three-dimensional.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
It looks so much more natural than that really harsh outline of outlining the lips.
You don't reach the end of the upper lips.
Exactly, Maris. So I left this line just hovering, and there's no line here between the outside of the lips and the bottom of the lips. It's just a suggested shadow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sneaky.
So sneaky.
Wiki. Something that's really interesting is that to my eye, the part of her lower lip that's right in the middle looks more white than the page, that the rest of the face.
Yes, interesting, isn't it? So that's just about the relativity of value.
Yes, the dark of the lip line, and it makes the white right below it pop out.
Mm-hmm. So the colors or the shadows around whatever you're drawing will affect how bright or dark it looks. So it's sort of like if you had a painting that's like a peach color and you put it on a dark red wall, it would look very pale and almost not peachy at all. But if you took that same painting and put it on a very light, like eggshell shape color wall, then that peach would look much darker and more warm. So it's all relative.
Mm-hmm.
Great, great, great. Okay, let's do the eyes, and we'll try and get our character with just finish her off here. So the eyes, windows to the soul. So I have some very vague shapes here right now. What I typically do, I'm gonna soften these up a little bit. Normally I would just draw these really lightly. What I typically do is I try and bounce around between both eyes if I'm doing the face straight on to make sure things stay symmetrical. So if you look really closely at the eye, you'll notice that we have this tear duct that kind of pooches out before the main opening of the eye itself. So I'll signify those with just a little letter. I think of it as the letter C, like a teeny tiny letter C that's like opposite each other. Here, the indent of the eye, right where we began the shape of the eye there. And everyone's eye is different. I tend to draw my own eye just because I drew it a million times in high school when I learned how to draw portraits. When I draw the shape of the eye. So what I do is I'll draw and I'm only drawing the opening of the eye where the eyelashes themselves fall, not the full shape of the eye, which we'll get to in a second. I'm going to draw a slightly upward diagonal angle, go horizontally across for maybe like the little midsection of the eye here, and then I curve back down. What I'm not doing is I'm not just doing a little rainbow shape or like a half circle. That's going to be much too curvy and big and wide. Very rarely do you see those eyes. And I want to do that on both sides, kind of an upward diagonal away from the face. In the middle segment, I go kind of across vertically, horizontally, and then I curve kind of steeply back down. That's on the upper part of the eye. Doing my best to make it symmetrical. The bottom of the eye tends to be a little bit flatter, and instead of curving out the most on the outside of the eye, it's going to curve in a little bit and swoop out. So what I'd like you to take away from this is if you want to get a likeness, you're going to really pay attention to the little micro angles that make up the shape of the eye. Shape is huge. It's one of our elements of art, and that is how you can make or break the difference of a likeness or just a portrait that looks like, you know, sort of like the person. So that's just the opening of the eye. And if you haven't already, I've got a little kind of dash for the tear duct, because there's a discernible sort of very light line, don't bear down super heavy, between where the white of the eye begins and the pink of the tear duct of the eye. These teeny tiny details make a big difference when we're drawing eyes. The next line that I think is important to know about, you don't see it in everybody's eye, but this is going to be the upper eyelid crease. So if you look at my eyes here, you can see that there is a line that is the fold of my eye as my skin kind of flaps and wraps around my, you know, the sphere of my eyeball. So when we draw that, it almost never actually touches the opening of the eye. It tends to just sort of hover over that line. This line is very variable. You can do something sort of like this. It's an echo of that opening of the eye line. You're going to do your best to make that symmetrical. Hopefully you can see mine, kind of a model. That's going to really help show the depth of the eye, because this is one of the few, you know, the parts of our face that really has a lot of depth, and we can add shading here as well to make it look even better. Next, this is going to bring our little person to life here. We're going to actually put the iris and the pupil in. And if you look at my eye, so convenient to have a face right here, look at just how much of the white of the eye you see. It's really quite a bit. A lot of people tend to draw the iris too large, and there's almost all like the color part of the eye and no white of the eye. So you can look in the mirror, or you can look, you know, at whatever person you might have nearby to gauge what is realistic. And when you draw the iris of the eye, another thing that's important is you don't want to draw a perfect circle. It won't fit, or I should say, you don't almost ever see all of a person's iris, the full circle of the eye, unless their eyes are like so open that they're incredibly shocked. You know, they would have to really have an extreme expression for you to see all of that iris. So the top part of it tends to be cut off, or even half of the circle of the eye, depending on how heavy lidded the person is. So that circle in the middle of the eye is not a circle at all. It's more like a 3/4 of a circle.
Oh, okay.
Got my eyes a little off here. Push this one in. And then another thing to consider to make these eyes look really realistic is we want to have a little reflective highlight in the eye. You can see in my eyes a little white speck. I tend to just draw a little diamond shape or like a square in the eye.
In the middle?
Myself.
Can you come in closer?
Yeah.
That's a square?
It's like a square. It could be any shape. And depending on the lighting that the person you're drawing is looking at, that shape might look a little different.
Mm-hmm.
For the sake of speed today, we're going to skip the details of pupil and iris, and kind of like, as you can see my eyes right now, they just kind of look all dark. Everything except for that little shape, except for that little square we just drew in, we're going to shade dark. If you have light eyes, you would do something different where you would draw just the pupil. The important thing in that case is that the pupil has to be perfectly centered in the face. But just by leaving that highlight, you can see how it doesn't just add the texture of the eye, but also adds a little spark of life to the portrait. Now, depending on the person, if you want to make this a more masculine or feminine face, this is of course just an imaginary person. You could add, eyelashes, unless you have someone who's actually wearing makeup, you don't tend to really see much in the way of eyelashes. So you might just like give a suggestion of a little fuzz or a slightly thicker line around the outline of the upper lid, especially. I'm not going to go into like how to do makeup on a person right now. You can see I just added a really subtle suggestion of sort of like little flare on the outer edge of the eye. I thickened the upper lid only toward the outside to give a sense of a more feminine eye. If you were going to draw eyelashes, what I want you to not do is do not go in with little sticks and like have them sticking out straight from the side of the eye line.
Okay.
Also very important, eyelashes come from this inner part of the eye line, not this upper fold. Let's give our face some eyebrows. Now, the shape of the face and the person you're looking at is going to really determine where the eyebrows go. If you happen to feel your face, the eyebrows sit on your brow bone. You'll feel that there is a really stark drop off from that bone. Little hairs kind of protect it, and then it curves deeply into your eye socket. So this bone structure is going to play a big role in determining where the eyebrows go. In general, though, if it's an imaginary face like we have here, there's a little bit of shading that curves downward from the brow bone area toward the middle of the face. It doesn't touch. This is the skinniest part of our nose, right in between our eyes. So you might do a little bit of shading here. You don't have to draw this right now. Eyebrows grow up from out of that. They curve slightly upward, and then they angle down as they curve around the side of the temple. So the thing that I see people mess up when they try to do this is they tend to try and draw the eyebrows too close to the eye. There tends to be a lot of negative space between the eye and the eyebrow. Again, though, it depends on the person. There's some really interesting characters that have really low, like deep set eyes, whose eyebrows look like they're practically touching the eyeballs themselves. You're going to want to do better than me and make it look a little bit more symmetrical.
But not always symmetrical.
And not always symmetrical, of course. Love that anti-perfectionism coming out there. And to really make the eyes look realistic, I'm using pencil. If I would go in and kind of just smudge around the eye area with my finger, enough graphite will kind of smudge around that it's going to give the suggestion of some shadows in there. And it helps the face to look really nice and realistic.
Jessica, when do you go down? When do you
go down for the curve of the eyebrow?
Yeah.
I would say about 3/4 of the way down, of the way across.
3/4.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any trick we can use, like using the nose or eyes length or something like to make this
For that particular, for the overall spacing of the eyebrow, it tends to go directly above the tear duct, the beginning of the eyebrow, and it tends to end in a straight line with the end of the nose. So if I were gonna go, I'd connect my pencil from the outside of her nose to the outside of her eye opening, and that angle should be right where her eyebrow ends.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding,
Okay.
ding.
Thank you.
Actually kind of worked. And then that curve would happen more or less 3/4 of the way across. It's farther away from the center of the face. And that happens because this is where the side of our face goes from being sort of flat up here. We got the flat side of our forehead and then the curve back from the temple. So that shows the three-dimensionality of our face.
Nice.
Now you might notice her face looks kind of like a potato now, as far as like the shape of the face itself. It's a And that's why that when we started, we wanted to stay really loose and light with the face shape because we knew we'd come back and change it. At this point, you can really, you know, adjust the person to look however you want them to look. It's kind of fun. I'll often start and just tighten up kind of around the eyes and draw a darker line for where the outside of the eyes are going to go here. And then think about the chin. I kind of skip around, find the bottom. So it's going back to those big shapes, right? I want to think like, okay, where's the widest part of the head? Where's the bottom of the head? She'd have a nice long little chin here. But since I've made a female face, the female face tends to have a softer, more gentle curve upward up to the mandible, which would be right where the end of the mouth line is. If this was a masculine face, we would have more of a square jaw and have a sharper line. But for a female face, I'm going to gently curve kind of a wide diagonal out toward the outside of the mouth line. Face shapes are so different, but you do want to make sure you leave enough of a broad area for the jawbone. So some people try and make people look fashionable and chop off their side of their face so they look skinnier, but you need to make sure you've got the anatomy in accurately. And then once we get to the outside of that mandible, it is, you know, still a little bit square even in a female. So that's gonna then dramatically curve upward and be like swooping in toward the upper cheekbone. And this is something that is just so interesting, to me at least, if you're a portraiture person, just sort of walking around and starting to notice how different people's face shapes are, how you might draw them. The neck is going to go in just a little bit from the outside of that jawbone. I'm just going to go straight down. And another important feature, the ears also follow some of our lines. They're going to go from the eye line is the top of the ear, and the bottom of the ear is in line horizontally with your nose, the bottom of the nose line. So from eye to nose line is where the ears go.
Oh, the top of the nose, the top of the C.
Yes.
Okay.
And I just try to make my ears go kind of a little bit broader at the top and then they get skinnier toward the bottom. Sometimes I'll draw a little dash to show that little fold of the ear. The ear curving back. Oh, this is a really super simplified face.
Got it.
Yay. I'm going to throw some hair on her real quick because we're running short on time and I want to see how everybody's faces turned out. But before I place the hair, I want to double check, okay, from the eye to the chin, that's half of my overall skull. So from the eye to the top of the head, does my proportion still hold true? Because as you go through this process, sometimes the shape sort of shifts and changes. So
much head.
So from the bottom of the chin to the middle of the eye, that should still be halfway down the head. So that should match from the eye to the top of the head. And then I'm just going to, hairline. Hairline is important. Of course, this changes a lot on different people. But in general, you can kind of put the hairline a little bit higher from halfway between the middle of the eye to the top of the head. So if you find that halfway point again, from the middle of the eye to the top of the head, I'm just gonna scooch a little bit, it's a very good term here, to make the hairline. And just super simply for today, I'm gonna draw a big shape for the hair itself and do kind of a curved, curved back kind of hair down sort of part. Always with hair, you wanna go from the big shapes to the details. Please don't go in and try and draw each individual little hair one hair at a time. Instead, I'm just gonna keep it really simple here. And then if I wanted to make it dark hair, I'm not gonna go in and make each individual hair. I'm just gonna shade in the whole thing. Hair tends to be darker around the parts. And then it has a highlight that'll pop up. And then I'll get darker. So this is our super simple, focusing on the proportions of the face, intro to the portrait. And
I'd like to know how would I do that if I wanted to draw my hair, like curly hair.
Oh gosh, yeah, curly hair. It's similar. I'll have to look. I should do a whole tutorial on that. You're still gonna look for the big overall shape of the hair, and look for the shadows after you get the kind of big shape of the hair.
It's a shadowing thing then.
Shapes first, then shadows. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to go in and like draw a bunch of little circles all over the plane. Instead, you would say like, okay, there's sort of this maybe organic line. Gosh, I'll have to do a longer tutorial on that one of these days, but I'll see if I can find it.
You did what, when you did this last year, you made your curly hair.
Oh, did I?
See it?
Oh, let me see.
That was your last year.
Oh, let me pop that up. Yeah, you can see I've done this
Oh.
quite a lot. Cool. Yeah, so same idea, right? Just the overall shape's kind of wavy. And then shading. Yeah, there's Judith's self-portrait.
I did a self-portrait.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's the first time it ever looked a little like me.
Yay.
Oh, you can do that. Oh, okay. You know, I was thinking you did a self-portrait from looking at yourself, not from a photograph.
From a photo.
Yes, yes.
Yes, definitely. It's a lot easier drawing from a photo than it is from real life.
I was so impressed. I thought he was doing it.
Anything I should have done differently?
You know, just the angles are a little different, but yeah, no, it looked great. Wait, was that just today though, Judith, or was that?
I just did it.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
Right now?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yes. Oh, I see what you mean. So you're like following along, but doing the, and with the glasses too. Yeah, great work.
Well, without the glasses and my red lipstick, it wouldn't be me.
The signature look. So Maurice, let me pop you up here bigger. Lovely. The only thing I would change is get the face shape smaller. It looks a little wide.
Yes.
So you can shrink it a little bit, but the features turned out beautifully. Very nice.
Can you tell me what is the measurement for that? How do you make it? Is there a measurement as to the shape of the face?
For the shape of the face, what you can do is when you're drawing the eyes, the distance between the eye and the outside of the face is usually smaller than the width of the eye. So if my eye is this wide, I take that same measurement and I scooch it out. You can see it's much smaller. So you can kind of shrink that in. Chins are so different. Everybody's chin looks a little different. So I just usually draw a little oval in my mind. I would kind of think like, okay, just a small little oval, maybe about the size of the lips underneath there. And sometimes I'll have to chop, like bring the bottom of the face up. But it's always better to draw from a model and not only from your imagination. So find a model and you'll be set. Linda, that you're ready to show up? Let me pop you up here. Beautiful work, Linda. Wow.
Thank you.
That turned out beautifully.
That's great.
Thank you.
Look, Zach, I see you popping your picture up here. Oh, you drew a guy.
I love the lips and oh, really good.
Wow.
Yeah, excellent
Yeah.
work.
Is that yours, Linda?
You
No,
doing
that
that?
one is Zach's.
Zach. I
Wow.
see. Sheila, you look like you have yours ready. I'm going to pop you up here. Beautiful. And
Wow.
Sienna. Very nice.
Very
Yeah.
good.
You could probably scooch the mouth up just a little bit more.
Scooch them out.
Upward. And just think about, if you were drawing from a specific person, their upper lip. Renata.
Okay, yeah, my shape of face is a little bit off, I think.
Yes. Okay. So a little bit, not enough chin.
Yes, yeah.
But if you,
I actually started off with a bigger chin and then I somehow shortened it.
Isn't it funny how that happens sometimes?
She looks pretty miserable.
She's a little sad, but she's a person, so that's always good. Definitely a cute little someone there. Carol.
Oh, beautiful.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Very nice.
Your proportions are beautiful.
Very nice.
It reminds me of Jennifer Aniston, a young Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Diane, let me see what you ended up with. Beautiful.
Wow.
Nice.
Oh, she's gorgeous, and she's got the earrings and everything.
Heads.
Yeah.
Heads.
Everybody's proportions look really excellent, I just want to say. So y'all got it. Adriana, would you share what you ended up with? If you're comfortable, you don't have to.
Okay.
Oh no, she froze. Oh, there she is. Beautiful.
Oh my God, that's great.
So sweet.
That's terrific.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would change would make the eyes just a tad smaller, but you're really like, you got it. You got everything.
Yeah, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Who else? Marjorie, can you hear us? I see the top of your drawing, Marjorie, but not the whole thing. If you could angle, there she is. Oh,
wow.
beautiful.
Wow.
Very nice.
God,
Beautiful.
that just goes to show what
Yeah.
what value can do. So it looks like maybe you're using like a charcoal pencil or something. So those eyes.
No,
just
I'm
pop like
using a 2H and a 3B.
Oh, the 3B. Great. So the 2H is a much, much lighter pencil, everybody, and the 3B it, like looks black in comparison, and you can see how by paying attention to adding intense value and shading there, oof, just pops off the page. It's gorgeous.
I can see the details behind how do you say, above the eyes?
Yes, like all those teeny tiny little, yeah, the eyes, having those like infinitesimally small little details really makes such a big difference. Did I get to see everybody's portraits? Y'all did such a good job. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Portraiture's intimidating and can be very scary, but you know, now that you know the proportions and the kind of tricks behind where to place everything, I hope you can, you know, refer back to this video or to the notes you took in your sketchbook so that you can use these as your springboard to make quick choices when you're trying to get a likeness. So
This was very good and really helpful.
A lot of science.
yay.
Jessica, can I just ask, can you run us through the shading of this face that we did? How do you shade it?
Sure.
I mean, later. You don't have time later.
Okay, and actually, Maurice, one thing you can also look at is on my YouTube channel, I go really in depth on how to shade each one of the features, especially the nose, which is so hard. And it goes all the features one at a time and also from the side. So yeah, that's probably what you want to look at next. And you can draw from those videos throughout the week as your homework. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll post that in the group for everybody as well.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks,
Jessica.
Pleasure as always. If you have any tech questions, please hang out with me and I'll be guiding you through anything at all. But otherwise,
a wonderful session.
Yay!
Yeah, it was a really good session. Thank you.
It
Thank you,
is.
This was
everybody.
fast paced. Y'all nailed it.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend,
Oh, have a
guys.
great week.
Everybody.
Enjoy your
Bye.
camp.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. It was great.
Jessica.
Bye.
Yay. Thanks. Great to have you here, Adriana.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Linda.
Bye, Moon.
Bye, everybody.
Great having you here for your first class.
Bye.
Bye. Until next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so I have a tech question. I don't know how to post.
Okay. So let's see.
I don't know how to make a portfolio. I followed your directions, and my pictures are not what your pictures are.
Okay. So posting and portfolio, that's kind of the same thing, really. And Sheila, are you in the same camp about figuring out how to post things?
Of course.
Perfect. We're all in the right spot.
Also, my computer just died in the middle of your lesson, so now I'm on my cell phone.
Okay, it'll
So
be a little
okay.
different. Yeah. Been talking so much. Okay.
Drink.
In a sense,
That's
Jessica,
great.
wouldn't it be easier to post from the cell phone because you can take a picture from the cell phone?
That is a very good point. Yes,
Mhm.
indeed. And let me think. I made some step-by-step instructions for the cell phone. What class was that for? That was for the 9 weeks class. So let me.
I could take a screenshot with the iPad as well.
Oh, that would
Oh,
be.
I can't. Yeah.
You can take a picture on your iPad. You have photos in the photo.
I don't have an iPad.
Oh no, okay. So you just have a computer and your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I may just have my cell phone because I don't know what happened to my
But
computer.
don't you have your pictures on your computer also that are on your cell phone?
No.
Yeah, not everybody. If you don't have the eye thing, they don't.
Not linked it's not synced.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, the
You have
syncing.
to post from your phone. Yeah.
And I usually just use my phone, and my computer is an old computer that's new to me because my husband got a new one. So I'm just starting to use it, but I think it may have just died. So we'll have to see.
You need your own.
Well, I have my own now, but it may be my own dead computer.
You need your own undead computer.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question? Because a number of you seem to have iPads, and I've had an iPad in the past. My iPad is 2003, believe it or not. So it's not doing very much.
No.
But would you recommend iPad or computer?
It depends what you're going to use it for.
Okay, can you just elaborate a little?
I have both. I use my iPad, like when I was in San Miguel, I didn't want to take my laptop with me, so I took my iPad. I could watch Netflix on my iPad. I could have all my everything on my iPad, and the iPad does everything that I want it to do. I don't need a computer when I have my iPad.
All right.
And I only got a laptop so I could make iMovies. That's the only reason why I got it.
I don't even know what an iMovie
is. I'm using it now for my Zoom classes and things, but otherwise, I didn't use my computer for maybe 6 years. I just used my iPad 100%.
Right.
That's my phone. Yeah.
Okay.
So I am going to go ahead and email you some links that have these steps, and I'm going to show you guys as well.
Okay.
Marjorie, I already have your email. Sheila, Sheila, it's Sheila Mateen, right? 37 at Gmail.
Right, but it's with an A instead of an E. M-A-T, the email.
Yes, I see. Okay, great. I got it.
My granddaughter did it.
Oh no. And Linda, let me see if I have you already. Yeah, Chef's Mama.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to send you these step-by-step articles, but we're also going to look at them right now.
Okay.
So my hope is that these will kind of be a reference after you.
Hello. Today I want.
So please forgive me because it says how to add an article in 9 weeks with a natural way to drawing, but it's also the same exact process for when you do do the same thing in this course.
Okay.
So these are, oops, these are all the steps. Okay, so I just sent the email before I forgot, but I'm going to pop up and share my screen. So you'll have both of those.
Thank you.
Yes. And I know it's a lot. I'm still trying to find the sweet spot of how to really make this as easy as possible.
Activity feed is where you post, right?
Yes, the activity feed is where you post. Now, this is how to post in your, well, this is how to post from your phone.
How to edit.
Yeah.
Wait, how did you get that? How to edit?
Hello.
I emailed it to you, but you know what? It actually, that's after you've already started it. So I'm just going to show you normally. Now, I can't show you a screen share of my phone, unfortunately. So I'm just going to have to show you on the computer screen.
Okay.
You can go to Bad Artist Bootcamp. And just like Sheila mentioned, instead of being at the table of contents, you're going to look for the activity feed. So normally, if you're on your phone, there are going to be 3 little horizontal white bars that you're going to push, and that will make your sidebar show up where you can navigate around. And
where are those bars? Are they top left on the phone?
I'm not sure if it's different on.
Yes,
I'm on an iPhone.
Yes,
I'm on an
top
iPhone.
left.
I don't see any bars on where we're looking now.
So if I am in Bad Artist Bootcamp, for me, it's these 3 bars in the top left.
Oh, up on top, not beside the activity feed. Okay.
So it is different.
And then what do we, okay, I don't see what you're seeing. I see Antonelli Art School, home, discovery, members, topics, events, courses.
So Linda, you're at the homepage. If you click courses, you're going to go to Bad Artist Bootcamp, and you'll know you're in the right place when you see the bright blue top bar.
Yes, but I don't see that page. I see an activity feed. Okay, go.
Great. So you're already where we want to be in the activity feed.
But it doesn't look like that.
Right. No, I wasn't there yet. Now I'm in the activity feed. So it looks
So
like
then
this.
what do we do?
So from here, there are a couple different ways you can do it. So if I'm on the phone, for me at the top and the bottom, there are 2 different buttons I can push, and they're both going to help me add a post. So one says add post right underneath the words activity feed. And if you just click that, then you can add a post, or there's a little plus button at the bottom of the screen. That's another thing I can click to add a post. So it's either going to be a little plus button that looks like this, or on my screen I see another button that says add post. Are y'all finding one or the other of those on your devices?
But that's not to create a portfolio, right?
You know, this is something that I think I'm finally just over, is the portfolios, honestly.
Oh, okay.
If you just add a post and put your work, it's going to be so much easier for you, and we'll still be able to find all of your artwork. So I think that's going to be better for everybody.
Okay, so I don't have to create a portfolio.
Thank
you. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right, keep your fingers crossed.
Now I don't need a margarita.
So
good. Jessica, I have one more question.
Please. Yeah.
When you were doing the mouth, my computer died.
Oh,
my phone wouldn't get on. Is one of your YouTube videos on the mouth?
It is. Yeah. I've got a whole one drawing the mouth right here.
Okay, great.
I love that one. It is so good.
Yay.
Yeah, because I have such trouble with mouths. I really do.
After this, she makes it so easy, and it's going to be so beautiful when you're done.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. So wait, one other question.
Hi, Linda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. One other question. In the calendar for week 1, week 2, week 3, there isn't that much homework. You know, there was the contour drawing, the line drawing, and the parochia drawing.
Yes.
And then you showed earlier today this whole bunch of other stuff.
Yes, and I'll be posting
Where
more
is the
of
whole bunch of other stuff?
yeah, a whole bunch of other stuff. So this is almost only everything from the class. Like if you're going through the Batterers Bootcamp, oh wait, am I still sharing my screen? No, so you can't see what I'm doing.
I can see you. Yeah.
I see you.
Good.
You look great tonight. I have to say your hair is very flattering. Very
Thank you
pretty.
so much.
Mhm.
Try new things. So
Great. Right?
like
Whoever
speaking,
else is
yeah, I
on,
was
don't
like,
you agree?
this is a good night to be drawing myself or
Mhm.
using myself as inspiration. So now I'm distracted what we're talking about.
Homework.
The whole
Homework.
list of additional, yeah.
Yes. So really the thing to aim for in general with this whole class is to draw every day. And so what I was suggesting that you do for your homework for this week is to go to my YouTube channel and each day do a different one of those portrait YouTube videos.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like that.
So if you just look up Jessica Antonelli, you'll find my channel. You can subscribe, and under drawing tutorials, the one that says how to draw the proportions of the face, that's exactly what we just did today. So I think today's lesson actually is better than that YouTube video turned out. So I would just skip that one, and you can start with eyes, nose, mouth. I have all of them straight on, and then also in profile, and I think I've got one in 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Sounds
all right.
good.
Have a
All
nice
right,
rest of the
guys, keep it
evening.
busy.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
I
My
very much
pleasure.
enjoyed the class. Thank
So
you.
great
Yeah,
having
me
you here
too.
live, Sheila.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I'm
Oh,
really too shy.
where are you calling in from, by the way?
I'm in Toronto. I'm in
Oh,
Keswick, actually, at the cottage. I've been in San Miguel a lot.
I'm going to
I've
say bye.
mostly done abstract, you know, like abstract or collage painting. I'm not good at, like, I don't draw, right?
That's so funny because I'm the exact opposite. I get so intimidated whenever someone asks me to do an abstract painting. It's I feel better with the control.
Jane Dill.
I love Jane. Yeah, she's great.
That's what she does. She's great.
Actually, if you're on my YouTube channel, I have a whole series of artist interviews, and I have an interview with me and Jane, so you'll have to check it out.
All right.
Yeah, it's
so I have so much now to do.
Yeah, very busy. So I'll let you get to it, but
Very
great
busy.
having you here.
Love it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
You
Bye.
too. A good week.